Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. Hi, I am 45 male and am married to Hannah, 42 female, and we have a daughter. Hannah and I have stable jobs, but between the both of us, I earn more. And while I earn more, she spends more. A year ago, my mom was really sick and needed money for treatment. I absolutely had the money to help her out. However, as my wife and I have a joint account, she was always whining about me spending the money, and so I couldn't contribute as much money as I wanted. Because of this, my mom couldn't get the best treatment that she needed and died. I felt absolutely miserable, and to be honest, very tied down by my own wife, Hannah. When I spoke to Hannah about this, she manipulated me and convinced me, saying, whatever happens was already meant to happen and nothing could have stopped it. At that moment, I was like, okay, whatever, but it left such a bad taste. Like a huge pit in my stomach. I couldn't deny that I had lost respect for Hannah a bit, but I didn't do anything about it. 3 months ago, I found out that my maternal grand-aunt, who had recently passed, had left her estate and savings to me. She had no children. I was to inherit a $1.5 million estate and some savings. I didn't tell Hannah about this, but as sneaky as she is, she overheard my call with the estate's agent and found it. She had a lot of questions and was so excited, but I didn't answer any and left for work. I came back from work that evening to find Hannah hosting a huge party at our house. It was mostly her family and our friends. It was a pretty random day to have a party, but I guess I just went with the flow. Everyone was drinking wine and eating and having a good time. Then suddenly Hannah gets everyone to gather around and raise a toast. She tells everyone that she has 2 announcements to make as well. She said, the day has come when I can do for my family my real duty as a daughter and as an aunt. Mama, Papa, I will pay off all your debts. And then looked at her niece Carol and said, I will set up a college fund for you. Everyone in the room cheered, but I was very confused. So I called my wife aside and asked her first of all why she didn't discuss with me as to all these promises she was making, and secondly as to where she was getting the money from. She chuckled softly and said, oh honey, you're my husband, so we are doing this together. The money for this is obviously coming from the estate, silly, and smiled. I was shocked. I told her that she had no right to make these promises to anyone without consulting with me. And moreover, I told her that she was being extremely selfish because she was willing to spend the money for her family, when a year ago she didn't let me spend it for my ailing mother. Then she had the audacity to tell me, see, your mom was dying, so why spend it on a dying person, when you could spend it on people like my family who are living and thriving. This made me so mad and we got into a whole fight right in front of everyone. The party broke up and everyone just left. Hannah was so upset. She says that I'm an a-hole for not having the conversation with her in private and for embarrassing her in front of her family and friends. Am I the a-hole? Update. So after a quick consultation with a lawyer, I figured out that the estate that was left to me was not a matrimonial asset and that my wife couldn't get any share of it. So I took this as a sign and filed for divorce. I served the papers to Hannah 3 weeks ago at dinner after our daughter had gone to sleep. Hannah was absolutely shocked and hell broke loose. When she also found out that she was not getting any bit of the asset, she lost her mind. Her family kept calling me and telling me how selfish I was being and that I was an absolute prick. But I think I made the best decision. You're not the a-hole, OP. Your wife was going to ruin you and then leave you after she had ruined you. She sounds like a selfish, manipulative person. I'm sorry about the loss of your mother. However, I'm glad you have taken the necessary steps to make sure anything like that doesn't happen again. I pity the next man she lashes herself on. As for you, I wish you a much better life. Enjoy your inheritance. Story 2. I've been with my wife, who I will call Rita, for 7 years, and we have a lovely little boy who is 3. I work in IT and she works in finance. Rita has admitted that she wasn't a nice person when she was a teenager. She and her friends were awful bullies at school, and it was bad enough that even though she grew up in quite a large town, when we visit her parents, she wouldn't dare show her face in town, in case she bumps into someone. Today we were snuggling after our lad had gone to bed, and she showed me a video someone had posted on Facebook of a drunk man having a complete meltdown in the town center of where we're living now. She couldn't stop laughing, but I thought the video was cruel. She insisted it was a laugh, but as someone who was bullied growing up, this was always a sensitive subject. And saying that it's just a joke is something that drives me mad. I asked her if all the things she did as a kid were a joke. When she heard this, she got annoyed at me, said I was a dick for bringing that up, and walked off to sulk. I don't get why she's getting annoyed at me criticizing her behavior, and rightfully pointing out that she's behaving like a teenage bully. OP, laughing at someone acting a fool doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you have a dark sense of humor. I think you went a bit far in the comparison. Especially if it's already something she doesn't like about her past, that she can't change anything about. That said, I don't know the video. I really can't say whether it is something you have to be mean-spirited to laugh at. I do think she should have thicker skin when she admits she was the monster as a teenager, etc. Overall, everyone sucks here. You both could have handled it better. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Humor is subjective, but I understand what hurts him here was his wife enjoying the suffering of others. Sure, we have all laughed at the misery of a stranger in a video from the privacy of our homes, but most of us have never taken it to the real world. When you have a history of being such a bully, you can't show your face in your town anymore, plus show zero remorse, hasn't apologized to anybody, and rather hide than show her face. Then maybe being reminded of who you used to be isn't an a-hole-ish thing after all. I'm torn. I do think having a generally mean-spirited enough sense of humor to think another person's lowest moments in life are funny is a character flaw. I don't necessarily equate it with bullying unless you are the one filming or publicly mocking the person though. Maybe a tiny bit a-hole because you could have focused on what the man might be going through to inspire empathy versus making her feel defensive about something she's ashamed of that you were told in confidence. Everyone sucks here. These feelings are subjective. As you've stated, you're sensitive to the issue. Perhaps sit down with your wife and speak about how this upset you, rather than attacking her past. It is important that you both resolve what constitutes bullying to a common understanding, otherwise your son is going to get mixed messages. This is either going to be a hill you die on, or some compromise needs to happen. Be careful not to attack your wife because of her past, aka you bullying her. It is easy to demonstrate why someone is wrong. It is harder to educate them on why they are wrong. Story 3. Tracy is 25 years old and Rachel is 27 years old. My daughter Tracy is a nurse. She finished her studies at the end of the year 2019 and began her first job working in a hospital at the end of January in the year 2020. Tracy's entire nursing job so far has been defined by the pandemic. The hospital she works at is in the area of this country that is hit hardest by what's happened. Even now though everything has calmed down, it is not for Tracy, her colleagues and the hospital. It is still bursting at the seams there in regards to the virus and a high number of cases. Tracy has been working long hours with very little time off since she began there. She ended up as a patient in her own hospital at one time due to the virus. Thankfully she pulled through, although it was a very scary time. While I can't understand what it is like for Tracy, I do know she is tired and stressed out because of a job. My daughter Rachel is upset right now because earlier this year she got a haircut that she regretted afterwards even though it was what she wanted. Rachel's hair used to be longer, however after the cut it is to her shoulders now. Rachel does not like her new shorter hair and does get emotional about it, especially as she estimates it will take her at least a year and a half to get it back to the length it was before the cut. Rachel also tried both temporary and permanent hair extensions and a wig, but it's just not the same. She is despondent over her hair. Tracy told me and my wife she wishes Rachel would grow up and stop crying about her hair every day. She said after hearing Rachel talk about it every time she's been here for months that she's at the end of her rope, and even wants Rachel to stop bringing it up in texts and chats. Tracy thinks Rachel is being too sensitive and needs to grow up. While I understand Tracy is stressed out due to her job, I said she needs to be kinder to Rachel and not bring any of this up to her like she wants to. Tracy was not pleased when my wife and I told her to be kinder to Rachel, because although it might not seem like it, this is important to her and she's not happy with how she looks right now. I'm trying to be understanding to both of them. Was that the wrong response? Now for some comments. If Rachel is that upset about her hair, she needs therapy. I would bet on it that there is something else bothering her, and talking about something visible is easier. That is not her sister's problem, and it feels enabling to let her drone on and on about it, preventing getting to the core of the problem. You're the a-hole for allowing, supporting, and enabling this nonsense about Rachel's hair. Hopefully you didn't buy her wigs and extensions. The way you describe Rachel's behavior, she sounds like she's 10 years old. I have a feeling Rachel always gets special preferential treatment from you, and I also strongly suspect you have always supported Rachel's nonsense at Tracy's expense. You're the a-hole. Look, even if Rachel's behavior was totally reasonable and normal, which it isn't, and she does need to get over it, Tracy saying that she doesn't have the emotional energy to listen to any more very frequent complaints about it is a perfectly reasonable boundary. We can't be someone's constant go-to about any issue. We aren't just made for that, and that's putting aside Tracy's very demanding job. She has sympathy fatigue, and given that it's such a ridiculous issue, I don't blame her at all.